Hey, it's your Player 2 here, and you are watching Chris, the old-ass retro gamer.
What is up, everybody? Chris, the old-ass retro gamer here. Yeah, I didn't let the theme music play that long today. I need food. I haven't had anything to eat today again. Work was absolutely nuts. But I am Chris, and the old-ass retro gamer. And welcome to the next edition of my video game collection 2022 live streams. Today we're talking all about the PC Engine, TurboGrafx-16, PC Engine CD, and TurboGrafx CD games that I have in my collection. And I forgot I had this many. I go through like weird, I'm sure every collector does this at any given time, but I go through like weird phases where all of a sudden I'm super interested in a console that I collect for, and I just go whole hog on it for about a month or two, and then I kind of like let it fall by the wayside because there might be certain games I was specifically looking for during that time, and I got them, and the other things I'm looking for are a little too expensive, so I move on to something else. Maybe I have ADD. I don't know. Collecting ADD. It could be a thing. Probably is. And I just like forget about it. I haven't bought anything for the Turbo or PC Engine in quite a while. Let me see here. Comments. Doesn't mean I'm not still interested. I still play it a great deal now that I have a television that I can actually hook my Retro Freak up to, and it doesn't like spit out weird images and sounds randomly like my old 4K TV did. And annoyed the hell out of me. I did not like playing my Retro Freak in my bedroom while sitting on the floor like a little kid. But anyway, yeah, so when it comes to the TurboGrafx CD, the American version of the PC Engine, I didn't have one as a kid. What's up, Dan? How's it going? Tiger Shot, what's going on? It's actually starting to cool off in Texas. It's actually starting to cool off a little bit here, too. Started driving with my windows down in my car now, which is very nice. Saves me a little bit of gas instead of having to blast the AC. Didn't have a TurboGrafx-16, let alone the CD attachment when I was growing up. It was one of those consoles that kind of flew under the radar with all my friends. I knew one kid in high school who was like a rich kid who had the TurboGrafx-16. He was in my art class. And he would brag about it all the time, and I'd be like, what is this guy even talking about? What is this bonk thing? Like, whatever. And I found out about it a couple of weeks later. A friend of mine got a video game magazine, and he was showing me all about it, and I was like, oh, that's nice. Something else my parents won't buy for me when I ask for it because, you just got a Nintendo. You don't need anything else new, just like they did with the Nintendo itself, saying we had an Atari and we didn't need another new console. But I really wasn't all that interested because as far as the video game magazines that I was reading at the time, I remember I was reading Electronic Gaming Monthly and Game Pro, and I think the same year I started reading, Game Fan? Die Hard Game Fan. They covered it, but not a lot, at least at the beginning. So I was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. And I also thought it was silly that the games came on little credit card looking things. I was like, you got the Nintendo and it's got this massive ass cartridge and it's got all this information on it, not realizing that That entire cartridge is basically filled with that much microchip stuff. What can those cards do? I remember the cards on the Master System. Like my uncle had the Master System. I was like, those games played like crap. You know, what can this? No, I'm good. And then when I got back into collecting in the early 2000s, well, it was actually late 90s. I didn't really like get into the TurboGrafx until the early 2000s when I discovered eBay. I bought a American TurboGrafx and a ton of games for dirt cheap. You do not understand how dirt cheap these things were back then. I bought a TurboGrafx and I think 20 games for probably $100. That's how good. But it wasn't. I'm not talking about like the complete games. I'm just talking about the cards by themselves and the console itself. It was nobody cared back then. And of course, when I lost my job in 2011, I had to sell everything, and I sold everything dirt cheap. I wasn't really paying attention to the prices that things were worth, and I sold everything for like pennies on the dollar. So when I got back into collecting again at the end of 2013, I looked into the TurboGrafx because I did enjoy playing it while I did own it. I loved it. That was the first thing I looked into, and I was like, no, I'm not paying these prices. What the hell? What did I sell my stuff for? Did I rip myself off? Apparently so. So it took me a while to get back into collecting for these consoles. Because I didn't want to, number one, have to buy two different consoles or get one modded, because you never know. I'm not modding stuff myself. I can't do that. You give me a soldering iron and I'm going to lose an eye. So I ended up not really focusing on it until I think the end of 2014. The games are super pricey. Ever since I got back into buying them in 2013, they've just been steadily going up. In 2014, though, I got maybe it was the beginning of 2015. No, actually, I think it was the beginning of 2015. I got a very nice refund from the government, my tax return. And I said, hey, I can set aside a nice chunk of this thing. I can put some aside for bills, but I can put aside a really nice chunk of this towards something expensive that I normally wouldn't be able to afford on my paychecks. What's up, J-Chip? How's it going? And what I ended up doing was going on eBay, like you do, and I found a guy in Japan who was selling a Turbo Duo, a Japanese Turbo Duo that he had modded to be able to play American TurboGrafx games. And he had also changed out the capacitors inside, because I understand, like, when it came to the Turbo Duos, which is like the double consoles, like my Sharp Twin Famicom back there. It's like a a PC Engine and a PC Engine CD in one console. He had modded it to play American games, and he had changed out all the capacitors in the console because they were known for going bad, and also the like rubber band to spin the CD drive. And I got it for like a really good price, and that was where it all began. So back then, in 2015, I picked this Japanese Turbo Duo up. There's the disk drive, and there's where the cards go in. That has a switch on it that this guy had installed. Where are you? There you is. Right there. That switches between playing American and Japanese games. And it is... you have no idea. Once I got what's up, Mondane? How's it going? Once I got back into collecting for this thing, I was just like, you do not understand. Like, where did a random ass moth come from? Bitch, you invaded my streams, and get your ass out of here. Once I discovered how awesome the CD games were for this thing, I hit up my local video game store. Not video games then. That was People Play Games. I went there every Monday for 3 weeks in a row and raided their TurboGrafx section. They had a ton of stuff. And I basically just kept on going back and getting more and more stuff, to the point where they ended up giving me something for free. And I'll talk about that when I get to that game. But I built up a very nice library very quickly. A PC Engine clone. I already have a PC Engine clone for my Retro Freak does that. It plays TurboGrafx-16, PC Engine, CD, and Super Graphics games, which is awesome. The only thing it doesn't do is play the CD games, which is why I want my goddamn Polymega to show up so I can play these things. Any of your TurboGrafx? Captain Algebra played a TurboGrafx game because I put a whole bunch of ROMs onto a memory card or a thumb drive, and plugged it into my Retro Freak, and Captain Algebra played New Adventure Island because that was one of the games he was looking for at Mo GameCon. And I was like, well, I have it on the card. You can try it out to see if you actually want it. He's like, I want it, but yes, I do want to play it. And he played it for like 20 minutes, I think. And he actually really liked it. So got the console. Then I went cray for the games. I was getting them on eBay. I was getting them at stores. I made the decision once I did get the Turbo Duo that I was like, I saw what the prices were going for complete in box, and I was like, I am not down for that. I'm down for complete in box for, everything else, but the TurboGrafx games in the original boxes, number one, were they super rare to find them like that? They were like, it quadrupled the price of the game, and I was like, I gotta draw the line somewhere. I am fine with them just coming in the CD jewel case. That's all I care about. I don't want the loose game, but I also need something to hold them in to display them. And this jewel case was as far as I was willing to go. That's why I play my 5 Hue. What? That's what I play my 5 Hue cards in. Oh, so let's get into the games. I'm going to start off with the Japanese PC Engine because that's what came first. And then we'll go into the Turbo 16, and then we'll go into the PC Engine CD games, and then the Turbo CD games. Yeah, they are crazy expensive, although not only did I see a couple at Mo GameCon at the end of July, but when Captain Algebra and I were on the way back from the convention back to Illinois, we stopped by this out-of-the-way game store that just happened to be down the street from the Wendy's that we stopped at for lunch. And the guy had like 3 or 4 complete in-box TurboGrafx games. I think they were still sealed in like this case. This place was a dump. Like there was no organization, everything. You had to like dig through things to find games. But in his case, by the register, he had like 4 in-box sealed games like Bonk. I think he had Bonk 1 and 2. He had Splatterhouse and something else. I don't remember. Maybe Tailspin. But I was just like looking at him like, I am not paying $350 for Tailspin because I already own it. Spoiler alert. Aftermarket idea or not hard to make. Yeah, I'm just fine with the jewel cases. I think they look fine on the shelf. They are compact. They're slim. You can fit a lot of them in an area. I'm good. Let's get into the games. So starting off with the Japanese PC Engine games, starting off with Altered Beast. I almost choked on my tongue. Hang on a second. I got to get my phone out so I can look some of these things up. Turbo PC Engine. Because like when it comes to the Japanese games, some of them have names that are in Japanese. Logic. So I picked this up at Mo GameCon back in July, and I was really excited about it because I do own a couple of these like Sega arcade ports or Sega games on the TurboGrafx 16. And I was like, I have a couple. You'll see them in a bit. I wonder what Altered Beast is like. It can't be as bad as that. Was it the Famicom version that came out or whatever, or the Master System version? Yeah, it can. I was not prepared for what a shitty port this was. It looks like the Genesis game. It doesn't look anything like the arcade. It looks more like the Genesis game, but there is a supreme amount of lag. There is a lot of missing, like not only sound effects, there are no voices in this. The sound, like a Genesis cartridge had voices, but this doesn't. There's missing sound effects. The timing of things is like off. Like I couldn't even beat the first stage. Like it kept on like kicking my ass. Like you put the Genesis game in and I will breeze through the first like at least 3 stages without losing a life. This one, something about it, I just could not get it down. Like everything felt off. And I was like, you know what? I made a mistake. I paid, I think, $25 or $30 for this at the convention. And I was like, yeah, this might be like one of those TurboGrafx games I decide to sell or PC Engine CDs that I decide to sell because I did not enjoy it. So there's that. But this, on the other hand, is like one of those divisive ones. Yeah, this version is pretty rough. Yeah, it sucked. But I did pick up Batman. This was one of the first games I bought when I got my Turbo Duo because I think it was the first Samsung Galaxy phone that I bought. I had installed an emulation program on it that played PC Engine and TurboGrafx games so I could play while I was making the poopies. That's what you do. And one of the games I kept on going back to was this Batman game, because I assumed Batman was, this came out when the movie came out, just like the Nintendo game, just like the Genesis game. I'm assuming it's a port of one of those. Nope, it's like playing Pac-Man. You play as like this little Batman, and you're going through like these maze-like stages. The first few, you're just collecting objects. Like there's pills and like stuff laying around. There's villains. You have to hit them with your batarang, and then they'll like spin in place like they're dizzy, and then you go up and touch them, and they kind of like fly away like they're gone off the stage. But eventually they'll respawn somewhere. So you have a batarang as your primary weapon. You can get upgrades to make it go further. You can get upgrades to be able to throw more of them at once. You can get upgrades to make you move faster. And I was actually enjoying it while I was playing it. And then later on, the levels start turning into stuff from the movie. Like you end up in the museum, the art museum from the movie, and you have to undeface all of the paintings that the Joker has spray painted over. So if you find one, you go up and then you just kind of like wipe it off and stuff like that. It's weird. It's not what you would expect a Batman game to be. But for me, it was a nice, pleasant surprise that it wasn't just another side-scrolling beat-em-up. And one of the cool things is also that first stage music from the NES game is actually in here, and it's been like amped up a little bit, and it's really cool sounding. I really actually enjoyed this one a lot. I play this one, out of all the games I own, I probably play this. This is like one of the top 3 games that gets played a lot in my house. They can't talk. Guys. I'm not Batman the Dark Janitor. Yeah, but it's fun. That's all I care about. This one I'm going to have to look up. Hang on one second, because the name is crazy. Okay, here it is. Come on, phone. Get your shit together. It's like, oh, I didn't have the Wi-Fi on. That's why. It's trying to pull the artwork off of the internet. Okay, so I got this at, I think, the third Midwest Gaming Classic that I went to. This is the last time I went to the MGC when it was still in the tents out in the parking lot of that hotel. And this is called Genpei Tumaden. It's the sequel to, what is it? Ghost Samurai, I think is the name of the game in the US on the Turbo CD, or the TurboGrafx. Yeah, this is the Japanese-only sequel, and I was really excited when I found it. The guy at the table that I found this at was telling me all about it. He's like, yeah, have you ever played Ghost Samurai? I'm like, no, that's one of those pricier Turbo CD, or Turbo... I keep on wanting to call the Turbo 16 the Turbo CD. The TurboGrafx-16 games that was a little bit out of my price range for that time. And he goes, well, here's the sequel. It never came out in the US, and it's dirt cheap. I think I got this for like $10. And I was like, yeah, sure, give it to me. And I brought it home, and whoa, is this game terrible. This is another one that I'm probably going to get rid of. It is not fun. The graphics are super choppy. The like hitboxes are terrible for everything. The music is tinny and gross sounding and like hurts your ears. I was like, I made a mistake. It was $10, but it's still a mistake. I did not like it. Can't find me Kadash for a decent price. My superpower of finding video games dirt cheap on eBay has like worn out. Like, I don't know if I have, maybe something around here is my kryptonite. I don't know what it is. It could be just the entire collection in general. Or my luck ran out. It hasn't happened in a long time. I do not recommend this one. It is not fun. I still want to play. I mean, now that I have it on that memory card, I'll go play Ghost Samurai and see what it's actually like and see if that's better than that piece of junk. Next up, we have a game that I picked up because it was recommended in an episode of GameSack. This is when I can't remember the name of the other guy. There was oh, Jesus. I am so hungry and tired, I cannot remember the names of the 2 guys that used to host GameSack. Or whatever. The guy that left talked about this in this like hidden gemmy thing they were talking about for the PC Engine, and it's called Gamola Speed. And it's like that snake game that you always have on like the early cell phones, where you're just kind of like, you're this snake and you have to get to this dot. When you get the dot, your snake gets a little bit longer kind of thing. But it's kind of like a platformer at the same time, and it looked really, really fun. And I was into it, and I got it dirt cheap off of the eBays. So I picked it up. I haven't really spent a lot of time with it, but when I tried it out to make sure it worked, I was like, yeah, it's going to happen at some point. So here's where crossovers start. I always thought that this was like an exclusive for the Nintendo, but apparently not. It's Gradius. Yeah, Konami was releasing a bunch of stuff for the TurboGrafx in Japan. I'm not so sure about it in the US, at least when it comes to the games that I have. But in Japan on the PC Engine, they were like, yeah, just everything. So this is a decent port of Gradius, the arcade game. It's better than the NES game. It still has a little bit of slowdown, not as much as the NES version. But the graphics are a little bit nicer. It plays a little bit better. It's a little bit more smooth, I guess, because of the less slowdown. It's not as choppy at times. The music is definitely better. Only $100 for loose. Oh boy, wait till you hear what I paid for mine. Spoilers. So when I saw this on a Facebook group, so there was a guy that lived in Italy who was in a TurboGrafx. Like when I first got the piece, the Turbo Duo, I joined a bunch of like TurboGrafx and PC Engine groups on Facebook, and this guy in one of the groups who lived in Italy was trying to sell his entire collection. He was doing it like piecemeal. He was doing it like little bits at a time. And he did like a shooter sell-through thing on the group. And I bought like a whole bunch of them, and this was one of them. I got a whole bunch of shooters for this console and for the Saturn, the Japanese Saturn that you will see later on in a different stream. But I was super thrilled to get this. It looks and plays very well. I am not sad. I'm not a big fan of Gradius on the NES because of all the slowdown. It was one of the games that I played at my friend Pat's house when the NES was, when I didn't have an NES, when I had to go to other people's houses to play it. That made me dislike shmups because of how like choppy that one was. And I was like, if this is what the Nintendo shmups are going to be like, I don't want to have anything to do with it. And then Life Force kind of changed that. Next up is the New Zealand story, which is an arcade game port of a Taito game. It's like a platformer where you play as this little Kiwi and you're just jumping around, and it's okay. I got this dirt cheap off of eBay. Not too special. I think I've only popped this into my Retro Freak maybe twice. The first one was when I first showed up to make sure it worked, and then the second time I was like, "Hey, I need to play some of that New Zealand story now. Let's try this thing." And I was like, "Yeah, it's all right. It's just like it's like playing like a little souped up version of like Mappy, I guess." I was like, "It's all right." This one I had high expectations for, and I was let down, and that is Ninja Warriors. I loved the arcade game of Ninja Warriors because it was like, I think 2 televisions side by side, and the entire game was like this. Like you're playing like a game in widescreen. It was like 2.35 to 1 aspect ratio kind of thing. So you can see enemies coming from a while away, and you can get prepared, for when they finally get up to you, you can smack the shit out of them. It's a side-scrolling beat 'em up, and the arcade game I remember being really fun. Also because the barcade down the street for me actually has the arcade cabinet, and it still is fun. But for some reason, this just didn't do it for me. It's really choppy. It's really slow. There is a lot of slowdown. It's just not fun. Like the same problem I had with Altered Beast, with like timing stuff feels off with this as well. So I got this from Japan. I paid a little bit more than I wanted to, but I really was excited about playing this at home, and I was kind of let down. So, yeah. Next up is a really good one, and this one is, I need to look it up. I don't think it has a straight up name. Yeah, it doesn't. Okay, so this is Parodius Da Shinwa Kara Owarai. It's a Parodius game. It's a parody from Konami of shmups, mostly the ones that they make. And I remember everybody telling me about cute 'em ups, the cute versions of a shmup. And I was like, I need to get at least one of those in my collection. So I got this pretty early on also into collecting for the Turbo Duo. And I really enjoyed it. It's kind of silly. You can play as like a penguin and Vic Viper from Gradius and a whole bunch of other characters. You can choose which character you want. You can choose their loadout like you do in your Gradius and all that. But like everything you fight is like bizarre and weird. Like if you look at the back here, number 2, a lot of these games that come out for not only the TurboGrafx and the PC Engine and all that do not have stuff on the back to show you what the game looks like. So when I first got back into collecting for this console, it was a crapshoot. Every single thing that I bought was a crapshoot. I had no pictures to go off of. I didn't know what was going on. So I was mostly asking the clerk. I was like, do you know what this one's about? Do you know what this one's about? Do you know what this one's about? But this one actually has stuff on the back. And you fight like a Vegas showgirl on the bottom screen, you can tell. And then you end up fighting like it's a pirate ship, but the mast of the ship is a cat head. Yeah. It's just like weirdness for weirdness' sake, and it's just silly and goofy, and I absolutely love it. I do have a bunch of Cotton games. You'll see a bunch of them later. So the first ever cute 'em up I've ever purchased, and I absolutely loved it. I actually need, you know what, maybe tonight after the stream, I'm going to put this aside. This is going to go into my Retro Freak, and I'm going to play the shit out of it, because I've actually been in the mood for playing like a shmup of some kind, and that just, it's tickling my fancy right now, everybody. Next up, I need to look this one up also. This one is called Sadakichi 7 Hideyoshi no Ogan. I found this at the People Play Games, my old retro store in the area, and they had like a small area for like imports. They had the majority of the store was dedicated towards American, U.S. region games. In the center of the store, they had like this island, and that's where they had all the imports. And I would always go and check out the import stuff, because sometimes you can get a game from another country that's expensive in the U.S. for dirt cheap from overseas. And I always raided their PC Engine section, so I found a lot of stuff there. And this is if I remember correctly, a strategy game, I think. Like I said, there's nothing I can go off of. It is a Hudson game, though. I'll have to look it up. It says here it is let me tell you what my app says. A comedic espionage-themed adventure game for the PC Engine, published by Hudson. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I need a translation patch to play it, because it's obviously in Japanese. But the clerk gave it the thumbs up, and when I bought this, he was like, dude, that just got like sold to us like 3 days ago. And he's like, you're the first person I think that's actually picked it up and held it in your hands since it showed up in the store. So yeah, pick that one up. And when I got that Gradius, I also got Salamander, which is Life Force in the US. Salamander is what the game is called in the arcades also. So Life Force, you played Life Force. It's Gradius, but instead of just taking on waves of enemies and all that, you are actually entering a gigantic living being, looking to kill it, like looking to destroy its heart, because it's like Unicron from the Transformers movie. It's going to eat other planets or whatever. And this was the game that got me, well, the Nintendo version, the NES version is the shmup that got me back into shmups. This is the superior version. This has obviously less slowdown, but the music and the graphics and the gameplay is just tweaked just a little bit better, and I like it a lot. And I was playing this quite, I'm going to put this one aside as well. I'm going to play this tonight now too. I like me some shmups, people. Next up is my preferred version of this specific game. It is available in the US for the Turbo 16, but I don't like censoring. If I find out that there's like an uncensored version of a specific game I like in another country, I will go after that version of the game. So when I first got back into collecting, when I bought that Turbo Duo, there was like a list of games I had to get right off the bat. Batman was one of them, because I knew I would play the shit out of it. And this was the other one. But I had also heard from, I think it was Adam Koralik, said that, hey, I found the American version of this game at a half-price books. It's been censored. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. And he's like, if you're going to get it, get the PC Engine version. And that is Splatterhouse. So it's a side-scrolling beat-em-up that's horror-themed, obviously. You play as this dude whose girlfriend gets kidnapped by ghosts or whatever. And you find this like cursed hockey mask, and you put it on, and it like possesses you, and you become this like muscular killing machine, and you're walking through the house just beating the shit out of every single creature you run into. You fight bosses and stuff. One boss has like chainsaws for hands and stuff. It's pretty rad. But there's a couple of things that were taken out. I think some of it has to do with the ending, because the ending of this game is like legit effed up. Like what the stuff that's going on with your girlfriend is like creepy. Yeah. The main thing that got censored in here is there's a boss you fight, and I think it's in the 3rd level. It's like in a church. And you're fighting these like severed heads that are circling this altar. And in the middle of the altar is an upside down cross. And in the US, it got censored, and they put like a pentagram there instead. And I was like, no, I want the original graphics. I don't want this crap. And I think they changed some of the blood in the game to different colors in the US and all that, so it wouldn't be like graphically gory. So definitely picked this one up when I found it for a decent price. It was still expensive, but I found the cheapest version that was floating around on eBay at the time. And I was happy that I got it. I played the crap out of it. It even came with the little sponge and the little slip for the cue card to sit in. So there's that. And I'm super thrilled. I'm telling everybody, if you're going to get that game, get the PC Engine version. It doesn't require you to know Japanese. I mean, some of it is in Japanese, but I mean, like, it's a beat 'em up. Who cares? Next up, well, this is the final game I have on a cue card for the PC Engine, and that is Street Fighter. And this is what version of Street Fighter? Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition. And it comes in like one of those double CD jewel cases. And why is that? Well, for starters, it doesn't come with a big-ass manual. You would think that's why. It doesn't. I think they just did it because they felt like they could to get attention. But one of the cool things is that this game could not be put onto a standard cue card. Like Megs. They had to expand it somehow. And by doing that, they made a cue card that has like this extra bubble on top that has extra memory in it, so that they could put all the game on here. And I heard about this, I want to say it was either Gamester 81 or maybe even GameSack or something like that. It could have even been Pete Dorr. I heard about this from one of the YouTubers I was watching at the time, and I was like, hey, I love Street Fighter. I think it'd be really cool to play that on the Turbo, or my Turbo Duo. So I actively went searching for it, found a really cheap version of it on eBay, picked it up, and more RAM. Fat boy Hue card, it's so fat, like it's Papa. In order to play this game, because the standard TurboGrafx PC Engine controller is like an NES controller. It's the D-pad, a start, a select button, and an A and a B button. Here, in this case, it's a 1 and a 2. Well, when Street Fighter requires 6 buttons, you have high, low, and medium punch, high, low, and medium kick. How are you going to do that? Well, that's where the Avenue 6 controller comes in, or Avenue Pad 6, comes in. This was, I think, made by Hudson, and it is a 6-button TurboGrafx controller. And each button has turbo. It is fantastic. So when I picked this up and I started playing it with the 2 buttons, I was like, you know what? This is some bullshit. I just kept on doing the same punch and kick the entire game. I was like, no, ain't no way I'm beating Bison's ass here. So I ended up looking for one of these on an eBay, and I found it. I even bought like an extension cable so that I don't have to like sit on the floor. That's the other problem I have with the TurboGrafx and the PC Engine. The cables for their controllers are like 5 feet long. There's no reaching a couch. I had to sit on the floor to play this damn thing. So I bought like a 10-foot extension cord to make the cable longer, and woo, it makes all the difference in the world, everybody. If you're gonna, just in general, if you're gonna buy a TurboGrafx, or if you have a TurboGrafx or a PC Engine, get an extension cord for the controllers. It makes it so much nicer. But this is actually a really good port of Street Fighter 2. I actually prefer this to the Genesis version. I don't like the Genesis version. I think it controls it's like too floaty, and I don't know, everything moves too fast for me. Maybe it's because it's that hyper version. I don't know, but I preferred this one. I played the crap out of it when I first got that Avenue 6 controller. So, hail to the yes. Oh my, you have one. Yes, I do. Hue cards are cool, but I'm glad that I grew up with resilient cartridges. Hey man, the cartridges are great. Sorry, not the cartridges. The Hue cards are great. It takes a lot. Like, you have to basically hold them like this and bend them to get them to break. What's up, Davey? How's it going? Welcome to the stream. So now we can get into the TurboGrafx-16 games, and this is where I have a lot of stuff. So like I said, I was raiding that local store of mine for Turbo games every week for 3 weeks straight. I was getting them online, and then like 2017, I want to say, I had another gigantic tax return, and I was like, TurboGrafx, here I come. And I bought a lot of the expensive stuff that I've been looking for. So we'll start off with Alien Crush. Sega cards are the ones that fail. Yeah, Sega cards are poopy. Alien Crush. I love digital pinball. I love video game pinball. And this is like I guess it's like a series of games I don't remember the name of the company that made them. There's Alien Crush, Devil's Crush, and then there's Jackie Crush. And Jackie Crush is on the Super Famicom. And I need to get a copy of that soon. But Alien Crush is, I think, the lesser. I think Devil's Crush is the best. I haven't played Jackie, so I can't compare. Devil's Crush is amazing. I'm only going to get the Japanese version, though, because that was censored also in the US. Alien Crush is just, you're killing aliens with your pinball. There's aliens all over the board, and you're just bashing that ball around, trying to take them all out and go to different stages and all that. It's not too complicated, but it is super fun. I absolutely love it. But I do want to get Devil's Crush, and I need to get the Japanese version of it. So there's that. Next up, a absolute banger. We have Blazing Lasers. This was one of the games. So I told you that I joined a whole bunch of TurboGrafx and PC Engine groups on Facebook once I bought my Turbo Duo. And one of the things I did, there was 2 games I was looking for specifically for the US console, for the Turbo. And I went into all these groups and I was like, hey, I'm looking for these 2 games. If you have one that you're willing to sell, hit me up and let me know what you were asking for it. And a bunch of people did. A bunch of people were trying to like get me to pay more than eBay rate. But there's a couple people that were like, yeah, I've been looking to sell my collection or some of the games in my collection. I don't play these all that much anymore. What do you want to pay for them? And I got lucky because I got both of the ones I was looking for. And this was one of them. Michael B. the Game Genie bragged about this to no end on his channel when he was actually talking about console games before he switched over to arcade stuff. Why did you come to Chicago and didn't hit me up, bro? Made me sad. Anyway, shmup, awesome shmup, vertically scrolling, absolutely love it. It is hard, but it's not like so hard it makes me want to like rage quit. Like it makes me just want to keep on going. And it is amazing. No arrow blasters. It's a great shmup, but man, I ain't paying that price. My wife just yelled at you. You're welcome. Absolutely love it. So this lived up to the hype because I did not have this back when I was collecting in the early 2000s. This is one of the games I never picked up. Shmups weren't really on my radar at that point in time. So getting this now, like back in, this is probably 2015 when I got this. Oh my God, I played the shit out of it and I absolutely loved it. Next up is another one. This is one of the games I bought when I had like that rush in 2017 or whatever it was, when I was like, tax return, Turbo games. I picked up Bloody Wolf. Bloody Wolf. I knew nothing about this game. I did not have it back in the early 2000s, but holy crap. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up with a little bit of run and gun going on. You play as like this military dude that's like Rambo, and you're just beating the shit out of everything. You're jumping off. You're kicking people on motorcycles. You can go into these huts and get like weapons and start shooting people all over. It is so much fun. I mean, you know what? I'm going to put this aside too because I'm going to play some of this tonight as well. I absolutely loved it. Like I could not put this down when I got my copy. I was just beyond thrilled. I got that off of eBay. And then we got the 1-2 punch. We got Bonk's Adventure. Bonk ended up being the poster boy for the TurboGrafx-16. And it's like the mirror image of the Mario Brothers games. And what do I mean by that is, what do you do in Mario, at least the first Mario? Well, you run around, and if you're looking for a power-up or kill an enemy, you jump up in the air and you punch a block to get a power-up, and you have to land on the thing's head, or you jump on its head in order to kill it. In this one, everything is all about Bonk jumping up in the air and then like spinning in place and then ramming things with the top of his head. And it's super fun. I absolutely love it. You get like you can start picking up these neat power-ups and it makes you a little bit more powerful. And then you're immortal. Not immortal, you're invincible. Need a little refresher. Bonk's Adventure. Super fun. I watched Captain Algebra beat this on stream, and I kind of wanted to do it, but I was like, I don't know about that boss rush at the end. I was like, that'll probably frustrate the hell out of me. Sadly, no Bonk in your collection. I don't do it. At least the first two, they're not super expensive, but I absolutely loved it. And because of that, absolutely had to get Bonk's Revenge, the sequel. More of the same. Everything's just been refined just a little bit. But, you know, the weird-ass caveman character is actually really charming and fun to play. And the game is, like, really cutesy. It's like a cutesy... It's like Super Mario Brothers. It's super cutesy. and it looks better than Super Mario Brothers does by a long shot. Absolutely love this one too. I will probably never own Bonk 3 because that one is like one of the most expensive games for the console. So we're talking about this earlier. Who was talking about this? Who was doing it? Who was it? Who was it? Let me go over here and take a look. So Tiger Shot, if you're still in here, we got Kadash. And I picked this one up when I was on my little 2017 got to get all the Turbo games with my Quacks return. If you want to know what I paid for it, I remember because I was thrilled that I found it. There's 2 Kadash arcade games? No, I did not. I know that this is available on the Genesis. I hear this is the better version because it's by Working Designs. Mundane. I paid $70 for this. And I was happy that I paid that. I got it at a little bit of a discount because like the corner of the manual has been torn. But I was like, I don't care. I just want the game because I want to play the game, and this is the cheapest I've found this game. So I picked it up, and it is a pretty fun side-scrolling, I don't know, beat 'em up, but it also has like, it's like playing side-scrolling Gauntlet, I guess, where you can get like a group of people together and you play together different character types like in Gauntlet. And I was like having a blast doing it. I absolutely enjoyed the shit out of it. Johnny Millennium from Happy Console Gamer was always talking about how he absolutely loved this game on the Turbo because like the arcade cabinet was like one of his favorite arcade games ever, and he loved the fact that this was very close to it. So hell to the yeah. Wasn't going to pass that up. I wish I passed this up. It's China Warrior. This was like one of the original like launch games, I guess, for the TurboGrafx-16. And while I do appreciate the absolutely gigantic sprites in this game, your character is like 3/4 of the screen, or he takes up 3/4 of the screen. What you're doing in the game is just really stupid. It's like you're walking along and like a bird will come at you. Boop, punch the bird. Oh, there's a bottle flying at your ankle. Hit it, kick it. It's like tedious and boring. And then eventually you get to a boss and it's just boop, kick, boop, jump kick, boop. It's really slow, monotonous, not a fan. It's like a zoomed-in version of Kung Fu on the NES, but not nearly as fun. I got this for like a whopping like $7, I want to say. Picked this one up at People Play Games when I raided their Turbo section, and I bought it on a whim because I was just like, ooh, other game I've never heard of. Let's do it. And it's Crater Maze, and it's a puzzle-type game. It's kind of like playing Pac-Man also. Kind of like that Batman game, kind of like a little bit of Dig Dug also. And I put it in to make sure it worked when I got home from the store. And I ended up sitting on that floor. Like I said, I didn't have the extension cable yet for my controller. I was sitting on my freaking hardwood floor for, I think, 2 hours playing this. And I got pretty close to beating it. And I was like, oh, like, where did the time go? This game. It is super fun and addictive. The music is super catchy. Oh, you can link up to a 4-player game. I did not know about that. I knew there was a multiplayer game, but that is pretty cool. But I highly recommend this game. It was like, I would consider this like a diamond in the rough for the console. It was like very unassuming, very cute looking when you boot it up, but it was like addictive to play. Like I did not want to stop playing. And it's like so easy at the beginning that it's like it gives you like this false sense of security, like I'm awesome at games. Look at this. And then like all of a sudden it's like, what'd you say? But it's fun as hell. This is another one I took a gamble on and it did not pay off. And that's Deep Blue. Dan B from the Game Beaters played this on my Retro Freak at the Mo Game Con. And he was like, what is that Deep Blue thing that's on the list of games for the Turbo? And I was like, oh, you do not want to try it. He was like, well, now that you said that, I kind of do. It's a shmup. It's an underwater shmup. And it feels like somebody threw this together in like 2 days. You play as like this little teeny little fish, and you have like a pea shooter as a weapon, and you're going up against other fish. And it is just boring to look at. The music sucks. The power-ups suck. It just plays like garbage. It is, like I said, it just felt very thrown together. Or like the person who made the game or the people who made the game had never made a video game before, and this was like their first attempt to do it. It's just not fun. I do not like. No likey. There is a channel on Twitch I used to watch called Moonbeam Arcade, and it's a husband and wife team, and like on the weekends they hook up like an EverDrive to a specific console that they own, and they just go through the list of games that are available. And at one point, they were doing the TurboGrafx-16, and they were like, "Hey, people in the chat, give us some suggestions." And I was like, "Hey, play Deep Blue," and they did. And now, whenever I don't like it, but they liked it. And every time I would be on the stream and they'd be playing the TurboGrafx, I'd be play Deep Blue, and they'd be like, "Gladly," and they'd start playing it. They like it. I don't like it at all. Dan B didn't seem to enjoy his time with it either. So this is Johnny Millennium's least favorite game for the TurboGrafx. Double Dungeons. I guess I haven't played it yet. I've been too afraid to. I got this dirt cheap. I think I paid $10 for this on eBay. Johnny Millennium does not like this game to the point where he doesn't even have... The reason it's still in his collection, the reason he hasn't gotten rid of a game he doesn't like is his shelving units that he keeps his games on. One of the shelves is dipping because the top shelf is all strategy guides, and the shelf can't handle the weight. So it started to dip. So what he ended up doing was the shelf beneath it, he put like a mailer for a poster, like a cylinder, and it was just slightly smaller than the distance between the two shelves. Like there was just a little bit of a gap. So what did he do to fill the gap? He stuck his copy of Double Dungeons in there to fill the gap. And now this is holding up a shelf on his shelving unit. Reach was overpowered. Cool. But from what I understand, it's like a dungeon crawler, like an into the screen dungeon crawler, like the old Dungeons and Dragons games on the PC, like Eye of the Beholder kind of thing, and it's not good. But eventually, I will plug this into my Retro Freak, and I will play it. It's not going to be anytime soon, though. I got it because it was cheap. This one I bought because I like my experience with the NES game. Excuse me. I talked about this in the NES streams, that my experience with the NES version of Dragon Spirit went from not liking it when we first got it back in the day, when the game first came out, to when I got it again in 2013 and playing it again and going like, oh my God, this game is kind of fantastic, to going, oh, I know it's based on an arcade game. I need to get the TurboGrafx port because that's probably going to be closer to what the arcade game was. And yes, it is. It is still what is awesome about the NES version, but it is looks and sounds and plays more like the arcade. It is fantastic. It's a shmup, a vertically scrolling shmup where you play as a dragon, or a guy riding a dragon, or a guy that turns into a dragon. God, get my dragons crossed. A guy turns into a dragon. And your power-ups consist of getting you more heads, so you can throw more fireballs. You can throw more fireballs just from one head. You can shoot three from three heads. It's good. My preferred version of this game now. It is absolutely fantastic. If you like the NES game, get the Turbo game. It will blow your mind a little bit. Strategy game guides are heavy for sure, but that art is beautiful. That art, for Double Dungeons, is it though? Next up is, I was talking about when I was discussing the Altered Beast that I got for the PC Engine, how I have some of these like Sega games on the TurboGrafx. Well, I had no idea that Fantasy Zone was on the TurboGrafx-16. It got a port from the Master System. But I was like, cool, let's try this out, see what it's like, because this is the first Fantasy Zone game that I had ever bought. I never played one before I played this. And it's kind of fantastic. It's a shmup. It's a horizontally scrolling shmup, but like Defender, you can actually turn around and go in the opposite direction, because the whole point is there are these, I think they're called bases. It's basically like an enemy generator. There's a number of them on each stage, and you need to destroy every one of them. And in doing so, you're destroying the enemies that they're birthing, and you get coins for doing that. You get a lot of coins for destroying the bases themselves, and you can go into these shops and upgrade your ship with those coins. Those are currency. And the only problem is that the weapons that you get upgrades of are only for a limited time, which is the only problem I have with this game. Outside of that, this game is super fun, super colorful, cutesy. I guess it's another like a cute 'em up, I guess. But I love everything about it except the fact that your power-ups are like for a limited time only. Dungeon Explorer is good, $45. I'm afraid. Every time I pick this up, every time I pick up my copy of Dungeon Explorer, in the back of my mind, I hear Gina Davis from The Fly going, "Be afraid. Be very afraid." I'll play it eventually. It'll happen. But Fantasy Zone is a fantastic port to the TurboGrafx. I absolutely love it. I picked this up because I do believe it was it Michael B. the Game Genie? It was either Michael B. the Game Genie or that Ed T. blah, 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 bunch of numbers, or Gamester 81 that said that there were these two games, and I have them both for the TurboGrafx-16 that are sports games that were actually RPGs. I would have loved, like, Konami was making not Capcom. No, Capcom did. I got the Street Fighter 2 for the PC Engine. They were making, both of those companies were making games for the console. I don't know why they couldn't, but it was mostly in Japan. Maybe there is. I don't know. I have to go look. But Final Lap Twin is like an IndyCar racing game, but it's also an RPG. There's another one coming up you'll see too that, what is an RPG? What? So when I heard that, I was like, that sounds interesting. And then I found this at People Play Games when I rated their video game section. At the same time, I found the other one that I hear is an RPG. But a racing game RPG. Yes. That sounds awesome. Needed it immediately. Luckily, I found them both at the same time. So, yeah. Next up, we have Galaga 90. I picked this up during that 2017. Got to get all the turbo things. I just was in the mood for playing Galaga, and like the updated version for the TurboGrafx, just I needed it. I needed it in my life. So I picked it up, and it is kind of awesome. I like it a lot. It looks a little bit different than what you think Galaga normally would look like, but it's been given a visual upgrade for the Turbo. So it's pretty cool. If you played Galaga, you know what's up. It's pretty awesome. Mortal Kombat for the Turbo Duo, I would have gotten a freaking boner. I picked this up at People Play Games, not when I was rating their Turbo section for those 3 weeks. This I got, and a couple of other ones you're going to see in a bit, when they were closing down. They were shutting down the store, and I think everything in the store was 10% off, but because I used to go there all the time, the guy that was running the counter, I talked about this in a couple of the other streams. When I first walked in, like I went there on Friday and Saturday to buy stuff. When I first walked in on Friday, the guy goes, "Oh yeah, by the way, everything is 10%. Oh, you, because you come in here all the time, everything's 25% off." I was like, "Oh, don't tell anyone." So I went nuts. And they had a lot of TurboGrafx games in their section that they did not have when I was rating their store before. I picked up a copy of JJ and Jeff. I do want to get the Japanese version of this game because the American port of this game was another one of those censored games. In Japan, these two characters are a couple of like Japanese comedians that are like really popular and they're raunchy. So there's like bird poop and like burping and farting and all this kind of crass stuff that when it got ported to America, number one, they were like, no, we need to change the characters because no one's going to know who the hell these two comedians are. And plus it's a little bit graphic comedy-wise, like pooping and farting and you know, like puking and pissing and all that kind of stuff. No one wants that in their games. I do. That sounds funny because I'm a child. So they kind of took some of that stuff out and like regionalized the characters. But it's pretty fun. It's like a side-scrolling platformer. It's all right. Nothing too crazy, but I do want to play the original Japanese version. So eventually I'm going to look for a copy of that. Yeah, super censored. Yeah, I need to find a copy of that. Maybe that'll be my next big thing I look for when I go to the Midwest Gaming Classic next year. And then we made Boogerman. Yep. This is the pack-in game that came with every single TurboGrafx-16 in America. And that is Keith Courage and Alpha Zones. And everybody I know, even that rich kid that was in my art class in high school that had the TurboGrafx-16, was the only person I knew that had it, like for an entire period one day, like when he first got it, he complained about this game and how poopy it is. And I was just kind of like, whatever, dude. You got a free game with your console. I wouldn't be complaining. I'd be like, yeah, it's not the greatest, but it was free. Whatevs. And what it is a side-scrolling platformer / beat 'em up. He plays this dude who is just going around beating shit up. But the thing is, you get like a power-up at one point. Like you get to the end of the stage and you turn into like a big mech. And then the game gets really fun. I don't think this game is terrible. I think it's actually kind of awesome. When I was first collecting in the 2000s, I bought just the Hue card of this. And I was enjoying myself back then. I'm like, this isn't terrible. What is that kid in class talking about that was so bad about this? I don't see. It's nothing special. It's nothing crazy and awesome, but it's fun. But then when I bought it again in 2013 or whatever it was, I was like, this game is actually kind of amazing. I was having a blast playing it. It is a little repetitive because you keep on doing the same shit over and over, and it does, get kind of hard. But I was enjoying myself. And the cool thing was I didn't think to look for it when I bought my copy because I got this off of eBay. But the version I bought actually came with the comic book. And I got lucky because I did not even remember this back in the day. So when I bought my copy off of eBay and it showed up, I'm like, why is the manual so thick with 2 C's? Oh, the game just fell out. Fantastic. I opened it up and I was like, why is the book so thick? And I was like, oh, because there's 2 of them. I found something that I didn't need I needed. I got the comic book. Get your ass up here. But yep, Hue card. I enjoy it thoroughly. I don't think it's anything, like I said, anything special. It's not magnificent. It's not the second coming, but it's fun. Should have New Adventure Island for the pack-in. Captain Algebra played that at Mo GameCon on my Retro Freak. That is a great game. I need to get that too. That was on my list of 5 things I was looking for at the Midwest Gaming Classic, I think in 2018 or 2019, and I have never seen it in person. Apparently J-Love found it, or somebody found a copy of it in the Retro Gaming Crew or whatever, and I was like, damn it. I picked this up at People Play Games when I was rating their Turbo section for 3 weeks in a row. And it's the first version of this game I've ever owned. That's Quacks. It's a puzzle game like Tetris where you have a conveyor belt that is coming towards you, and there are colored blocks coming down the conveyor belt toward you, and you have like a section at the bottom of the screen where you need to collect the blocks and you need to match up, I think it's 3 colors, either horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. And you have to just keep on stacking them up until you get the same colored stacks. And it's nothing to it. It's nothing crazy. It's fun. I ended up playing this for like a good 45 minutes when I first got it. First version of the game I've ever owned at home, and I actually enjoyed the hell out of it. So it's a super common game, but I enjoyed it. Turbo BT, which one is that? I'm not familiar with the Turbo BT. Elaborate. Next up, we have another 1-2 punch. We got the legendary axe. I did have this back when I was collecting in the 2000s, and I absolutely loved it. And remember the first time I ever played it, the first thing that popped in my mind is, remember that game, Astyanax, that came out for the NES? That was a port of an arcade game. This game feels like a ripoff of that. And yeah, they are very, very similar. Both, it's a side-scrolling platformer beat 'em up, and your character has an axe, or when Astyanax, you can upgrade it. You get different weapons, but you always kind of swing it like an axe. And it plays very similarly. It looks kind of similar. This obviously looks a lot better. But it's a super fun beat 'em up. I enjoy it quite a bit. Some of the bosses that you end up fighting, or the bigger creatures you fight, are slightly unfair, but you have to do the charging of your weapon kind of thing. It's fun. I like it a lot. But I was not prepared for how much more I would like the sequel, Legendary Axe 2. Now, it doesn't look anything like the original. This has been completely revamped. Now your character has like armor, and you get like these crazy looking swords and stuff. I absolutely love this one. This one is my favorite of the 2. Those damn those bear bosses, the ones that was the first thing that popped in my mind when I saw it sitting here as the next game I was going to talk about. I was like, those fucking bears. But part 2 just, I think, blows the first one out of the water. It's so much better. Everything about it. Graphically, musically, gameplay-wise, weapons, upgrades, everything. I love it. It plays so much better, and I had so much more fun playing it. And I think it was... Oh, God. Does anybody know the name of the guys from GameSec. I am completely drunk. Dave was the guy who left. Dave was the guy who recommended Gamola Speed in that video. Oh God, what is the name of the dude that's still doing it though? I cannot remember his freaking name. Whatever. He was the one talking about how much he liked this compared to the first one. Joe, yes. Joe and Dave. Like I said, it's been a long day. I haven't had anything to eat. I'm starving. I'm probably dehydrated. Brain ain't working on all cylinders. This is probably what every Thursday is going to be like. It just so happens every Thursday when my stream is happening, that's when shit goes down at work. Joe was the ones talking about how much he liked this one over the original. And I was like, you're full of shit. I remember the first one being awesome. And then I got it. And I was like, Joe, you Renaissance man, you was right. I absolutely love this. It's great. You got your channel from the Twitter link. Well, I'm glad you're here. Feel free to subscribe if you must. I would enjoy that very much. Welcome everybody. Next up is in Japan. This is called Nectaris. And here it's called Military Madness. And I was not into strategy games back in the day. They were not my thing, like, at all. Nowadays, yes, sir, very much. So when I had my little 2017 got to get all the turbo things, this was one of the games on my short list of ones I needed to add to the collection, and I was thrilled that I did. Very awesome strategy game. It's like a starter strategy game, I would say, when you compare it to some of the other ones that I've played. This is like Command & Conquer Light, but it's still super fun. I love it. I wish we got more games in this series. Maybe they did in Japan. We didn't get them over here. That is another great one. I absolutely love it. And then this is one of the other games that I had on my short list in 2017 when I wanted to get all the turbo things. Still want to get the second one, but it's probably not going to happen until I win the lottery. It's Newtopia. It's a Legend of Zelda style adventure light RPG. It is super fun. I need to actually, you know what? This is going to go sitting over here in this little stack, because after I finish playing through Valfaris on my PS4, I'm probably going to try to beat this. I need to beat at least one RPG / like long-winded adventure game this year. Feels like it's based on a board game. Yeah, it does. It does very much. Like it's almost like Risk-esque, I guess. Not quite, but it feels connected somehow. But Newtopia is super great. There's a sequel that is beyond expensive. But I got this for dirt cheap when I was buying all that stuff over on eBay. Like my superpower was in full effect during that turbo craze I was on. But super awesome, and it's going over here because I'm going to play you. I'm going to play you, and you're going to like it. The Fire Wand is good at max health. I will remember that. So when I was talking about Blazing Lasers and how I went on all those turbo groups on Facebook saying, hey, if you have these two games available that I'm looking for and you're willing to sell them to me, let me know. One of them was Blazing Lasers. The other one was Ninja Spirit. So when I had my turbo back in the early 2000s, the game that I absolutely played the most was Ninja Spirit. I love this. I still love this game. It is so much fun. The power-ups are awesome. You get like multiple shadow versions of yourself. And if you strategically place them in place, like they follow you around, they're always like 2 or 3 steps behind you. So if you jump in the air and your character does a long-ass high jump, if you jump in the air, if you fall straight down, you'll have one of the characters like 3 steps above you that was in the process of falling, like mid-fall, and then you have the one at the peak of the fall. There are bosses that you can do that to, that you need to hit them really high up, and you just leave that shadow version of yourself up high and just hit that attack button, and you will never take a lick of damage. It is so much fun to play this. I absolutely love it. It's one of my all-time favorite ninja games. Like everyone's got Ninja Gaiden, Shadow of the Ninja, Ninja Spirit. It's Ninja Spirit, Shadow of the Ninja, Ninja Gaiden. Hell yeah. It needs a modern release and a second game. I say yes to both of those. It is amazing. You want Newtopia 2 as well? Yeah, it is way too expensive. Oh, you have both of them? I would love to get the second one, but yeah, like I'm not paying that price. Hell no. I got this also during my little turbo kick in 2017, and that's Ordine. And if I remember correctly, like the title Ordine just always sounded super familiar to me. And I'm assuming it must have been an arcade game that I saw it in arcade as a kid, or I played or whatever. But it's a horizontally scrolling shmup, and it's also, I do believe, a cute 'em up, because if you look at the cover, you're like a couple of little kids flying around on little jet planes. So I played this when it first showed up to make sure that it worked, and that was the last time I played it. So I don't really know a whole lot about it, but shmups, like the TurboGrafx is filled with shmups. It is like 85% shmups. Not complaining though. You're going to see some rad ones coming up pretty soon. Oh, yes, you are. An arcade system card? What do you mean? Was that the thing I needed to use to make Street Fighter work? So I love the arcade game, but the control scheme of the arcade the arcade cabinet does not exactly translate very well to the Turbo. But that's Pac-Land. I like it. Don't get me wrong. I do like it. But in order to move, the 1 and 2 buttons are the left and right buttons. And to jump, you press up on the D-pad. What? I was like, when it showed up, when I bought this, I was like, okay, what is happening here? What? Can I change this, please? No. That's the way the arcade game was set up, I guess. You had like a button for left and right movement, and then you had a jump button. Great. But the game is still fantastic. It's basically, you're playing Pac-Man, but it's a horizontally scrolling platformer. And there's still power pellets. There's still ghosts all over the place. You eat a power pellet. They turn blue. You can eat them. And it's fun, but Jesus, the control scheme is just like dumb. Upgraded card for the CD games that needs more RAM. Oh, I'd have no idea. Maybe I'll pick up one of those too. You read some of that. They had their children pick up the games for release. Okay. Here's a shmup that I think everybody needs to have in their collection because it is super cool. And that is Psychosis. I picked this one up when I first got the TurboGrafx in 2015 or whatever that was. So the way it's a horizontally scrolling shmup, and the way the game works is your enemies rip through reality to get to you. So you'll be flying along, and all of a sudden you'll see like the background, which is like a clear sky with trees and whatever. You'll see it like rip like paper, and a bad guy will pop out of it, and then the rip will heal itself. And it's just always happening on like the right side of the screen. It is the coolest freaking thing I've ever seen. It is so rad. I love everything about it. It's creative. It's really colorful. It's fun. The music is pretty weird but catchy. I love it. The power-ups are pretty cool. Need it. Everybody needs that. There's another shmup. It's all shmups, man. You got a classic one. You got the R-Type. The rip sounds super cool. It is. The first time I played the game, I was like, what's happening? Oh, this is neat. It's like a real creative twist on it. I'm like, it's like it plays like every other shmup you've ever played, but that whole idea of like them ripping through reality to get to you is kind of neat. But R-Type is a really cool port of the arcade game. First version, I think, was available, except if it was available on the Master System. I remember that. I do not have it for the Master System. So this is the earliest version of this game I own. And it's another horizontally scrolling shmup. You have like a little option thing that attaches to the front of your ship, and you can throw it forward in order to get it to attack or to cause damage to enemies. And it also is like the source of your power-ups. Like if you get like the reflector beam or whatever, it comes out of there. It's pretty cool. I like it a lot. It has a lot of slowdown, though, so it's not the greatest version. Why didn't they release Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man on Turbo Trip? I don't know. That would have been cool. I love Pac-Man, so... Oh, it's coming. So, yeah, R-Type is decent. What were you talking about, Mondane? What's that game called? It's called Psychosis, Peter. But, yeah, this is... Otherwise, okay, so I go by sidearms because that's what's on the spine as well as the front. But elsewhere, this game is called Hyperdine Sidearms. And that's another horizontally scrolling shmup. It's nothing special. I think this is also one of the like original games to come out for the console in the US. And I got this for dirt cheap, like beyond dirt cheap. It's like one of the most common games out there from what I understand. It's fun. It's just not the best shmup on the console. What were you saying about Silent the Buggers? R-Type on the PS1? Really? I don't know if I have that for the PS1. I think I have R-Types. Yeah, Silent the Buggers, another shmup. I knew nothing about this. I got this off of some random dude in a Turbo group like 3-4 years ago, maybe like 2019, I want to say. I was just looking through my groups and some guy had like stuff up for sale. This was the only thing that I didn't already own that the guy was selling. And I was like, that is a weird ass name. I think I need it in my collection. And he wasn't selling it for very much. I think it was like $35-$40. So I was like, yeah, sure. That's cheaper than I'd probably get it on eBay. And I was right. But yeah, shmup, fine, great, whatever. I need to spend more time playing this because I only played it when it first showed up to make sure it worked and I didn't get gypped. And it worked, so I was like happy to go on the shelf. I need to sit down and play it. Here's another awesome shmup. We're seeing a pattern here, everybody. Sinistron. I got this at the beginning of my collecting for the Turbo Duo. And I honestly cannot tell you what it was like. I did play it for a good deal. I remember I played this and Psychosis for a good long while. I think because Psychosis had such a cool twist to it, it kind of like wrote over my thoughts of this. So I need to sit down and play it. I'm going to put this on my little stack. But if I remember correctly, this was pretty rad too. It's just that the Psychosis thing was a lot better. Here's another shmup. It's Tailspin. I got this at People Play Games when they were shutting down. I got JJ and Jeff, and I got this, I think, at the same time. And maybe one other game. No, I think that was it. Yeah, it was just these two then. But yeah, this is not like the NES game where it's like, the Genesis game is the platformer where you're playing as Blue, and I hate that game. I hate it so much. Like when I first got back into collecting in 2013, one of the first games I bought, it was in a lot of Genesis games, and it was Tailspin was in that lot, and The Adventures of Mighty Max was in that lot. And those two games I got rid of so fast. Like I played them once and I was like, nope, they're gone. That's cool. I did not know that. But yeah, Tailspin is another shmup where you're blue and you're in your plane, and there you go. That's all you need to know. Another shmup. Disney style, though. It's okay. See, this one I got at my new retro game store, Video Games Then and Now, and the cover of it made me think digital pinball. And I love digital pinball. And he wasn't selling it for very much. What's up, VGM? How's it going? Welcome! Then I got home and tried it out to make sure it worked, and I was like, oh, it ain't digital pinball. It's not bad, though. It's called Time Ball, and it's basically like you have to like join pipes together and kind of like puzzle style because you have a ball at the top of the screen that needs to make its way to another point on the level on the stage, and you need to connect all the piping to get it to the point it needs to get to. So there was no breaks in between. It is one piece of pipe that the ball can roll through to get to the other side. Yay. Never mind. Pipe dream with the ball. Yeah. I mean, it's not bad. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. It could have been like Pipe Dream on the NES or whatever that was. But it's not bad. It's just not what I was expecting. I was expecting another cool pinball game like, Alien Crush or Devil's Crush or something. And but it's not bad. Like I said, it's fine. I should have known, like I said, this is one of the reasons why buying games for the Turbo are kind of a crapshoot, because unless you have the outer box, there's no pictures of what the gameplay is. So I had to go buy this, and I see a big round ball and what looks like enemies in the reflection of it. Nope. And then you look at the sides, you're like, oh, the piping with the gaps. Oh, it was there. I just didn't know what it was looking at. But whatever. You know, more Disney games? I would have been down for more Disney stuff. Is Tailspin the only Disney game that... No, we also had Darkwing Duck, which I will not be buying, because I watched the Angry Video Game Nerds video on that game, and I will not be buying that game. That game is legit one that looked like poop. This one I absolutely needed to have because I love this franchise. So I got this off of another Facebook group. Way cheaper than it would have cost me if I bought this on eBay, because I looked, and that is Turrican. I absolutely love this franchise. Love it. And this is a pretty damn good version of the game. I have this on so many different consoles. Genesis, this, Super Nintendo. I know it's on the Game Boy. I have the hack of it. I have Universal Soldier. Whatever. It's a side-scrolling run and gun. It's very sci-fi themed, but your character can roll up into a ball that's like spiked and bounce around the screen and all that. It's pretty fun. It's been on every console. I think it started on the Commodore 64, and it's gotten ports to everything. And I'm not complaining because it's a super fun game, and the music is absolutely fantastic. Did you see the Retron Turbo system? Yeah, someone in the chat mentioned it earlier. It was either Mondane or Waves in Games. But yeah, that is pretty cool. You like Pipe Dream on the NES? What's wrong with it? No, I'm just saying I never expected that game to be something like Pipe Dream. But Turrican is pretty cool. This one I'm not cool with. I don't like it. It's a beat 'em up. Vigilante, I guess, is another one of like the common games. Yeah, it's a sequel to Renegade or something, if I remember correctly. Or Renegade is a sequel to this. I don't remember, but like I don't think the control is very good, and the hitboxes are kind of shitty. So I was not very impressed with it. Maybe I just need to spend more time with it. But I got this from Video Games Then and Now at the beginning of my collecting journey for this console, and I played it to make sure it worked. And I played it for maybe 15 minutes, and I was like, yeah. NES Darkwing Duck is better. I'm not a fan of the NES Darkwing Duck, but I do know that is a better game than what we got on the Turbo. And then the other weird sports RPG on this console is also the last game I have for the TurboGrafx-16 is World Court Tennis. So, like I said, I think it was Michael B. the Game Genie who mentioned that Final Lap Twin and World Court Tennis are, you got a racing game that's also an RPG. And then you got this, which is a tennis game, and it's also an RPG. What? And luckily I found them both at my old retro store at the same time. So I haven't really put any time into this yet. I played it to make sure it worked. It played fine, but a tennis RPG, that is just too weird of a combo to pass up. I love weird mashups like that, so absolutely had to own that. And that's it for the TurboGrafx-16. But then we still got the CD stuff. Ooh. So never had a TurboGrafx back in the day. Obviously never had a TurboGrafx CD. That shit was way too expensive. People are excited for it unless it's FPGA. Is that really that exciting? Maybe I'm being too cynical. So when I got my Turbo Duo in 2015, that was my first exposure to the CD games on the console, and my mind was freaking blown because the first game I ever bought for the Turbo CD, you'll see in the American games stack, but we got the PC Engine CD games first. So the first one I'm going to talk about is obviously the most expensive one I have in my console. So what was it, I think it was 2019 Midwest Gaming Classic. I talked about this in the NES game stream that the day of the con, so this is Saturday, the first day of the con, the doors of the vendor's hall open up. I had a list of things I was looking for. I had 5 games. I made a video about like 5 games I was looking for. One of them was Beetlejuice for the NES because I love Rare and I wanted to get all the Rare games. First table, Jason of Corpse Flood Gaming, Church the Game Grinder, and I walked up to at the convention was this one table, and the first thing I see is Beetlejuice. Jason holds it up in front of me. Look, they have it. And as I'm getting, like the guy is ringing me up for for Beetlejuice and the other games that I was getting at the same time, he has like a glass case, like one of those flat glass cases that retailers at conventions use to like protect the expensive games. I'm just standing there looking at what he has in there, and I went like, oh, I need that. The guy, Jason's like, it's like $300, right? And I was like, I don't care. I need that. And Jason goes, my man, and like high-fived me. And we're talking about, let me look this up on the phone so I don't butcher its name because it is in Japanese. Let me see, Turbo CD. This is, oh man, it's listed as the American name. Whatever. Castlevania Rondo of Blood, or Akumino Dracula Rondo of Blood X, or whatever it's called. Toys R Us had a T16 CD for $250. I mowed a lot of lawns for that. Oh, man. Michigan has no retro stores at all. I wonder where Tony, back in the day gamers in Michigan, I want to find out where he goes, because he gets some decent stuff. He talks about going to stores and getting some rad stuff. Yeah, the toys we had in my area when I was a kid, when the TurboGrafx was a thing, it would have been it's called Child's World, and it was like a budget. I didn't. Well, now that I think about it, it probably wasn't. They had a lot of stuff. That place was really cool. Child's World was like the toy store for the big toy store. Yeah, but yeah, Akumino, Dracula, Rondo of Blood X, or whatever this game is called. I absolutely love Castlevania, and I've always wanted to play the official version of this game on the PC Engine CD. I have a version of it on the PSP in that Castlevania collection. I think there's a version of it also on the Castlevania collection that's on the PS1. But I'm such a huge Castlevania fan, I wanted the authentic PC Engine CD version. And yeah, it was expensive, but I had saved up a lot of money to go to that convention. This game being expensive was one of the reasons why I saved all that money up, was so I could buy stuff like this that I've always wanted. And the funny thing is, there were two other tables, if I remember correctly, in the convention that were selling this for way more than that first guy was. So I got lucky. And I was, like I said, the doors had just opened, and I bought it like right at the beginning of the convention. So awesome. And obviously it's a side-scrolling platformer beat 'em up where you're playing as, I think this is Richter Belmont, going after Dracula in this, and it is in Japanese. It's also in German. But man, this game is so much better than the Super Nintendo port that it got. It is so much fun. The music is absolutely amazing. The gameplay is great. The graphics, the effects, everything about it is like top notch. It is one of, if not, well, it's not. My favorite Castlevania game is still probably Part 4. But this one is like right behind it, just right on its heels. It is so cool. And I was thrilled. You have no idea how thrilled I was to get a copy of this on my own. And it still came with not only, the game, and it was in perfect shape, looked like it had never been played, and it is not like a ripoff. It is not a copy or anything, but it also came with the spine card, with what is it called? The OBN strip or ODN strip or whatever it is. OBGYN? I don't know. And I was super happy to get a copy of this. Even like I said, Jason high-fived me because I was buying it. He's like, "Oh, starting this convention off right." So absolutely thrilled to own a copy of this. If I can get it back in this stupid protector, and I was glad it came with this protector too, because I do not want this exposed to the elements, the disc rot problem and stuff that all these older games have. Get your ass in there. I'll deal with you later. Oh no, there you go. So awesome. Let's see, was people talking about children's class? Never heard of it. It was Child's World. A friend of mine from back in the day, his mother worked there, and she worked in the video game section. So whenever I'd walk in there, she'd be like, "Here's what's new," and just put the games out on the counter for me to look at. I would never actually buy them because it was in the parking lot of the mall where that KB Toys that I was always talking about in the Nintendo streams. I would always go to the KB in that mall because they always had clearance games. Child's Play never seemed to clearance a damn thing. I think my parents would go there to get us the games they were buying us for like holidays and birthdays and stuff. But when I would buy a game, I'd go into the mall, and get a clearance game at the KB Toys. We do not talk about Dracula X. You don't like Dracula X? One place tried to open kind of close to me, but their pricing was absolutely insane, trying to sell the recent Zelda Game & Watch for no thank you. No wonder these places can't stay open near me because they keep charging like 4 to 5 times. Yeah, there's a store by me, and I can't remember the name of the town. Berwyn, I think it's in Berwyn near Chicago. It's called Play Me Retro, or Play It Retro. I think they just changed the name, but I've only been in there maybe 3 times, and each time when none of the games are priced, they have a ton of stuff that like I would, if I was rich, I would go into that place and lose my mind. But nothing is priced. And when you ask them what it costs, they go to eBay. And I'm not doing that. I wonder why they didn't have more 2-player games. I would have been like, don't they have Bomberman for Turbo? Yeah, to get the multi-tap to play the player 2. Yep, I know that. Next PC CD game I have is, I found this at a Half Price Books of all places. I went there on a lark with a friend. I think we're going to go see a movie, and there was a Half Price Books down the street from the theater, and we had a lot of extra time. Like, we finished dinner. We finished dinner early, and we're like, hey, let's go and hang out in there for a while. And I just went to the video game section. I didn't have any intention of looking. I was not looking to buy. But when I saw this for like 10, 15 bucks in their case, I was like, sure. It's called Bastard. I think it's based on an anime or something, and I think it's an RPG. I can't tell you because it's all in Japanese, and I only booted it up to make sure the disc worked when I got home that night, and it worked, so it's fine. But it looks like an anime-styled RPG, which means it's all in Japanese. Hopefully there's a port or a translation patch that I can use once my frickin' Polymega shows up. But all I know is I saw girl ass on the cover, and I was like, I'm buying it. It's happening. It's coming home with me. What's up, Red Sea? How's it going? Bomberman has 5 players? Holy crap. Honestly, I would rather average eBay pricing instead of 4 times. I don't like buying retro online. Makes me nervous. Yeah, it's a risk. It is like a roll of the dice, but I've gotten lucky. I think I've only gotten shafted maybe 2 or 3 times. Play It Retro was on Whatnot, and they did was mystery boxes. Yeah, Play It Retro, I learned about them. It's like a 45-minute drive from where I am. I went there on like my own one day, and I was like, I think I bought maybe 2 things, but I was like, no. I'm like, everything in this place is like, if it is priced, it is very overpriced. I got lucky with a couple of the things that I bought. There were like some PlayStation 1 games that they didn't give a shit about. They were like cheap, but like the things in their case everything was overpriced. And then there was I think they had Back to the Future for the NES. I know it's a terrible game, but I want the LGN things. I'm a licensed game whore, and they didn't have a price on it. And at the time that I went, this is probably 2019, it was going for like maybe 40, 50 bucks complete in the box. And I asked the guy what he's charging for it there, and he goes, 150. I went, everybody had TurboGrafx that had TurboTap. They literally made a new Bastard anime on Netflix. Oh, really? That shows you how far behind I am on anime. I don't really watch anime that much, but like I said, I saw this cover in that case of theirs where they keep the expensive games, even though this wasn't expensive. I saw Naked Booty, and I was like, you're coming home with me. Got this at... Was it this? No, I got this at People Play Games when they were still open, when I first got my Turbo Duo. I bought this game. It's in Japanese. I can't play it, but it looked cool because it actually has pictures. It's called Burai. Does this have... This is called Burai Geken Kanketsuhen. It looks like an RPG like Ultima, but it has a lot of anime-styled cutscenes. So, cool. It was $5, so that's why I bought it. $5. I didn't care if I couldn't read it. I just wanted, I was just trying to get games at that point in time. And then, that upcoming... So, I got that during when I first got my Turbo Duo, so that was probably March or April 2015. That Christmas of 2015, I went to LA to visit my brother, and he tells me there's this store out there called Game Dude that is like, if you're a game collector, that's where you go. If you like movies, if you collect movies, they have a really good movie section also. It's just massive. And I'm like, yeah, we'll see. And then he takes me there, and like I said in the pickup video that I did when I came back from LA, I walked into the place, I did this, I like looked around, and I felt like I needed to get down on my knees and start crying because I was so overstimulated by what I was seeing. It was wall-to-wall games, and this building was big. It was so huge, I didn't even know where to start. They had so many games in this place. They have sheets of paper when you walk in, and each sheet of paper, it's like when you would go to Funkoland back in the day, they had like a little 2-sided pamphlet that you would open up that would have all the games and what their prices were. Every console that they sold in the place had its own sheet of paper that you needed if you were buying games. I was walking around with like 12 sheets of paper in my hand, juggling between them because I didn't know where to start. It was crazy. So I was buying Dreamcast games, and the Turbo / PC Engine section was right next to where the Dreamcast games were. And as I was waiting for a clerk to come and get the games that I wanted for the Dreamcast, I looked into the case that were like by my knees. And I looked down and I was like, hey, I have the first game in that series. I got the second one because they got it. So they had Burai 2, which is Burai 2 Yami Kote no Gayakushu. I'm probably butchering the hell out of it. And it's another anime RPG. And I got this for $10. So it did not break the bank. Although the RPG stuff, you can even see the Game Dude sticker on there. Game Dude. I still have it on there. The fighting looks more like Phantasy Star 2 or Phantasy Star 3 style instead of like the Ultima style. So sure, whatever. Let's see what's going on over here. It's because it's north side Chicago. You got to pay that tax. That's why you got to go to the south suburbs or north or west. See, I go west. People are video games then and now over here is in Harwood Heights, and the prices in that place are amazing. I don't think that guy even pays attention. I don't think that guy even knows what eBay is. I think there's only been 3 times I've gone to his store and been like, that's a little too expensive. Most of the time, everything is way, way, way below what eBay is charging or people are asking for in groups and stuff. The guy does not seem to care. He's like, as long as it sells and I make some money, I'm fine. And when I went out game hunting last month for my birthday in Wisconsin with It's Rocket Sauce, Captain Algebra, and Tiger Chainsaw, we went to, Press Start, I think is the name of the place, Press Start. And I brought up Play It Retro, and the guy goes, yeah, those guys are a joke. He goes, we actually price our games like nicely here because we actually want to sell the games. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I feel when I go there. You should get some PC 9801 games. So many perverted RPGs. I'm not into the. I was just happy. Fun. I thought it was funny that there was a butt on that game. I'm not into like the porn games. Trust me, I'm not. I wish they made Monster Party. Monster Party on the NES was a lot of fun. So I was talking about the original Gradius that I have on a Hue card for the PC Engine. Well, Part 2 of Gradius was released on the PC Engine CD, and this has a subtitle too. This is Gradius 2 Gopher no Yabou, or Yaboo, Yabou, Yabou. And it's on CD, so it has CD quality music. And it looks and plays better than any Gradius game I've played, even the ones that are on the Super Nintendo. I like it a lot. It is pretty awesome. Smooth as silk. Absolutely love it. It's amazing. Had to have that. I'll have to check those out, VGM. I'll sub when I'm done. I picked this up off of eBay. I was looking for one specific game, and that is 2 games away. And the only, like the game, when I found the game that I was looking for, the cheapest version of it was like in this 2-pack situation. It was like a lot. And I was like, I don't know anything about that other game, but if it gets me the game I'm looking for cheaper, fine. And this game that I got is called, where are you? Golklight TDF2? Golklight? I feel like I'm getting phlegm when I say that name. Golklight? It's like I'm speaking German. And this game has a massive manual, which is why this game is so heavy. But if I remember correctly, it is another strategy. Yeah, it's like a strategy style game where you're mechs. This one actually has pictures on the back. So I got, like, if you want to compare what I ended up paying, I think it was like $30 for the lot, so I paid $15 for each. So sure. Gradius 3 is great too. I played that a ton on the Super Nintendo. This is when I bought that first Burai game at People Play Games when they were still open. I bought this at the same time, and this is when I said to myself, I think I need that 6-button controller. This is a Konami game called Martial Champion. I do believe this is also a port of a one-on-one fighting game that they released in the arcades. I don't remember ever seeing it in the arcades, so this was new to me. But I saw a one-on-one fighting game for the Turbo CD. Had to have it. And it's actually not too bad. The characters are a little generic, but I was enjoying myself, and that was when I said to myself, I think I need that 6-button controller because getting things to happen in this game was a little complicated with the standard controller. So I was thrilled about that. And I got this dirt cheap. I think I paid $20 for this. The last TurboGrafx CD game we got was Exile, Wicked Phenomenon. It took me like 10 years to track down a copy. I'm still looking for a copy of that. The game I was looking for when I got that Gulk-Light. It sounds like I have throat cancer. Gulk-Light. Like Batman. I don't have throat cancer. Was this, and this is called Mirai Shonen Conan, or Conan. I saw this on, what's his name? Oh, shit, I can't even remember his damn name. Oh, man, he was on my other podcast, too. Shit. Here we go. Gotta look it up, because I don't want to butcher. He's Mr. Polymega. Like, he got free Polymega shit from the company so he could advertise it on his YouTube channel. God damn it. It's going to drive me nuts. Thank you, everybody, for coming, by the way. I really appreciate everyone stopping by and chatting with me. It's a lot of fun. I'm glad there's a lot of people that are into these consoles that I'm talking about today, too. Come on, computer. Quit brain farting. Oh, everybody's watching Critical Role tonight. That's why. I want to get his name right. I want to get it right. It'd probably be easier if I went to Sarumaru. He talked about this. He did like a video about like import games that he was big fans of that no one heard of, like I guess like a hidden gem style video. And he talked about this. And I guess it's also based on an anime, and it's a side-scrolling platformer, but the graphics look like an anime. You can kind of see it in the picture. The footage that he showed on his channel when he talked about this game, I immediately was like, I need that game in my life. It looked so cool. So I went hunting a copy of this down on eBay, and I found it, and it came with that TDF2 game or whatever it was. So I was super thrilled that I got a copy of it, and it was not expensive. Like I said, I paid basically $15 for this. It's Conan in American, in US, in English. It is called Conan the Boy in Future. I think the kid's a robot. But whatever. He's going after a Goyle. He's interested in the lady parts. Still impressed somebody else knew about Star Ocean Blue Sphere. I feel like most people don't know about. Oh, you mean that? Spoiler! Oh, I'm glad I can be an enabler for all of you, showing you games that you feel that you need to add to your own collections that I put myself in financial jeopardy to add to mine. That's what collectors do. We're all enablers to each other. Last game I have for the PC CD is Super Darius. I got this off of, I do believe, eBay also. And the reason I bought it, I mean, I love shmups. Obviously, how many shmups I own for this damn console already. I've always kind of found Darius to be kind of, it's not the greatest series, but it's like a guilty pleasure because, I mean, what are you fighting in this game, in these games? You're fighting robot fish. Why? Because you can. Because it's very Japanese. And I love it. But yeah, it's a horizontally scrolling shmup where you're fighting nothing but robotic fish. Don't ask me why, you just are. But they're fun. And the music is fantastic because it's on a CD, so hells to the yeah. And that's the last PC Engine CD game I have. You're lucky I don't know where you live, sir. I have to come and dump around. So when I got back, when I started collecting in 2015 for this console, this is when I was rating people. God, I almost stuttered a bit. People play games. It is kind of a tongue twister if you say it fast. People play games. I was rating their store every week for 3 weeks. I bought this game, and this is why they gave me a free game, was because I bought this one. I bought the Addams Family because I'm a licensed game whore. I absolutely had to have it. It's not good. I've played the one on the Super Nintendo / Genesis, and it's fine. It's okay. It's like a platformer. This one is a platformer too, but it's just not made very well. It's mostly reliant on like stuff from the movie being in there. Like, I don't remember if it was footage or just like really high quality pictures or something, but it didn't feel like time had been taken to make sure the game was a quality type game. It was like just rushed out there to meet the release date of the movie. So not the greatest, but it was not that expensive. So there's that. And at the same time, I also bought Cosmic Fantasy 2. I knew nothing about this game. Like I said, they don't have pictures of the games on the back of the game itself. It does have that rad artwork, though. Why that guy is doing that weird side twist waist thing, I don't know. But whatever. And if I remember correctly, it's a sci-fi RPG. Was part 1 available on any of these consoles? I don't know. But they had part 2, and it was not expensive, so I picked it up. Darius is fun, yes. I think Darius 2 in the arcade was like 3 screens together. I have no idea, but that sounds awesome. A Rush license game? Yeah, exactly. Working Designs! So, Mondane over there, his nipples just got hard. Working Designs. So this game I bought the first day that I went there to raid their section at People Play Games. And when I brought this home and I was playing it, I had like tears in my eyes from the voice acting. And that's Final Zone 2. Okay, so I had Final Zone 1 for the Genesis. And it's like a top-down... What do they call the angled view? Oh, Jesus. Isometric view mech game. And it's okay. This one turned into like a side-scrolling like run and gun. And the cinemas have some of the absolute worst can't talk. It has some of the absolute worst voice acting I've ever heard in a video game. And I honestly was like equating this to like a really, really bad B movie. And I was just laughing so hard. I remember at one point I like choked. I was laughing so hard. I had tears streaming down my face from laughing hysterically. Like I could not contain myself. It was so funny. Didn't bother me though. I absolutely loved it. It's not a great game at all. I think I prefer the Genesis original, but cut glass, yeah. If you lock your keys in your car, just think of Working Designs and I like to see a hack version of Taking It to the Hoop with faster players. Taking It to the Hoop, I think they had that at People Play Games when they were shutting down. I just never bothered because I was like, no, I don't need a basketball game. I'm good. So I was talking about Sarumaru, about when I was talking about that Conan game, the anime game before. Well, the reason I know Sarumaru is because he made a game for the TurboGrafx CD. I met him originally at the Midwest Gaming Classic in 2017. Okay, so 2017 Midwest Gaming Classic, the last time it was happening at the hotel, and they had the tent in the parking lot where all the vendors were. I was on a panel that year talking about YouTube. It was me, the Game Grinder, Sheldon from, Video Games, Vinyl and Beer, I think was the name of his channel. Boss and Burf was supposed to be on the panel, but he couldn't make it. And we also had Grimsy42. If you guys are old timers, watch the OGs. Grimsy42 was like he stopped collecting games. Now he's collecting Star Wars Lego sets or something. I don't know. He went from video games and then got rid of the games, and then he collected comic books, and now he's done with that. And now he's collecting Lego Star Wars sets or something. Whatever. We're on a panel together talking about YouTube, and we opened it up for questions at the end, and someone said, someone asked me, and it ended up being Rising Blue Phoenix, who ended up being on a panel with us in the next 2 years. So he asked, what's the console we were all finding it the hardest to collect for? And everyone did theirs. And when they got to me, I said TurboGrafx / PC Engine, more so TurboGrafx, because there's so many good games on that console, and like they're just outrageously priced. Sarumaru was at the convention, and he was watching us in the audience on the panel. And when the panel was over, he stood up, walked over to me and Church, because Church was a backer on Sarumaru was selling or was funding this game through Kickstarter, and so was I. I learned about it because of Church, and he knew Church already because Church had been talking to him already before the con. And he came up to me and he goes, "Oh, you're a fan of the TurboGrafx, I see, because you mentioned it, when that question was asked." I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Here, have this." And he gives me the Henshin engine, the game. It's a demo of the game he was working on. And when he handed it to me, I was just like, "Oh, that's awesome," because all it really was the manual here and the disc and this like card, or the OBM strip, or the spine card, and the disc in like a little paper sleeve. And I gave it my own. It had the back art too for some reason, but I put it in my own jewel case. And he's like, "I want to give you this. This is the game I'm working on." And I saw the name of it, and I was like, "Oh," I'm like, I'm one of the Kickstarter backers also, so this is awesome." And he goes, "Well, I already gave one to Church," so he goes, "Enjoy. I hope you like the game." And I was like, "Well, thank you very much." And I went home and I played it, and I was like, "This looks pretty cool. I'm glad I'm backing this one." It's like a throwback to like all the other games that were popular on the TurboGrafx CD and the cards, the Hue cards. It kind of makes fun of them also. Like a girl gets sucked into a TurboGrafx program on her computer, and she ends up having to play through all the popular genres. There's a Castlevania stage. There's one based on Lords of Thunder. There's all this other, like all these other. I ended up playing through the game eventually. So what happened was, there's some company out there that had licensed the name Henshin Engine, and they gave Sarumaru a cease and desist. But they told him if he made the Henshin Engine the subtitle of the game, and they renamed the game proper, he could use the Henshin Engine as the subtitle. So what he ended up doing was calling it FX Unit Yuki, the Henshin Engine. And this is the game that I kickstarted. This is the full game. It came with one of those strips, and you got the game itself on disc. And I got this on my backlog roulette on the Super Enabler Brothers podcast that I do with Jason from Corpse Flood Gaming. And I ended up playing through it and almost got to the end. But the game... So the thing about my Turbo Duo is, yeah, the guy that I bought it from changed the capacitors. He changed the rubber band that spins the CD drive. But I think the CD drive itself is starting to burn out. So while I was playing this, it kept skipping. And like the music would cut out. And sometimes the game would just freeze. And I was like, yeah, I think the motor on the drive is going. But I got pretty close to beating it. I just couldn't do it with the state that the game was in. Luckily, I own this game for another console, and that's how I'm probably going to end up beating it eventually. But I did enjoy it. It's super fun and clever. It's wacky. The music, like Sarumaru is an artist. So he did all the art for the game, designed the characters and everything. The music in this game is absolutely fantastic. If you can get a copy of it, please do. It's great. I highly recommend it. So I have the demo with the old name, which might be actually worth something, and the finished version of the game. Bad dump can make a bad anime game great. Yes, and that's why, like I said, I was enjoying myself to the fullest playing that Final Zone game. It's not the funniest voice acting. No, there's a couple that I have played that has some pretty craptastic voice acting. So here's the free game that I got. And I need to wet the whistle. So when I went in those 3 weeks in a row to People Play Games to raid their Turbo section, on the third week was when I was buying that Addams Family game. I put off buying that Addams Family game as long as I could because I was like, I don't know anything about it. Yeah. So I buy it, or I bring it up to the counter, and there's the guy that ended up giving me that 25% off discount when they were shutting down. He sat at the register, and he goes, "You're buying a lot of Turbo games." And I was like, well, I just got a Turbo Duo that has been modded. It's a Japanese one, but it's been modded to play the US games. So that's like my new favorite console. I'm just trying to get as much as I can for it so I can play it all. And he goes, okay, cool. He goes, and I was buying like Addams Family and a couple of other games. And he goes, there's this company out there that's making like homebrew games for the TurboGrafx CD. And they sent us like they want to send us a shipment of them to sell in the store. In order to convince us to do that, they sent us one copy of the game for us to play. And based on what we thought of the game, they were like, hey, if you love the game, buy a whole bunch of copies so you can sell it in the store. It's a brand new game for the Turbo CD. He goes, well, we got the game, we got the copy that they sent us, and we don't like it. We don't want it anymore. Do you want it? And I was like, what? And he goes, we're just going to give it to you. He's like, we don't want it in the store anymore. It's just taking up space. We can't sell it because it was, it's a freebie. It even says on the back, I think, not for sale. But it's the complete game. He goes, it's a full game. It's just we don't want it. And we're not going to sell copies of it because we don't like the game. And I was like, I'll take, at this point, I just gotten the console. I'm like, I'll take anything that's free. Give it to me. So he goes, hang on one second. He ran in the back, talked to the owner of the store, ran back out. And he goes, yeah, he said you could have it. So they gave me a copy of Hypernova Blast. And it's done by this company called Mindwreck. And then the company that did the sound is called VOD Sound. So I was like, cool, free game. Awesome. I went to their website when I got home and I looked it up, and there's like 2 other games that they have made or are preparing to release at that point in time for the Turbo CD also. And this was like their big like headliner game. Like, oh, this is the game that's going to make us popular homebrew people. And I booted it up, and it is one of the worst games I have ever played. It's essentially a ripoff of Defender, and it looks worse than Defender. Defender came out like in 83 or 82 or 83 in the arcade. And this is a game on a CD for the Turbo CD. And this was at this point in time, 2015. And it looks worse than the arcade game of Defender looked. Like real worse. Like the graphics are putrid. The gameplay is putrid. Everything about this game sucks except the music. The music is awesome. And all it really is a shmup, but you can move back and forth on the screen, and you're just trying to take out a certain amount of enemies before they destroy your base that's on the ground and move on to the next stage. And then, like, the enemies change for each stage. They look a little bit different. But then once you get, like, past stage, what was it, like 15 or 20 or whatever, they start to loop back on themselves and repeat. And it's just wave after wave after wave of the same garbage that plays like poop and looks like poop. And the only thing I said that was the saving grace is the music is pretty decent. But other than that, this was absolute shit. And this is how I got into contact the first time ever with Adam Koralik, who's like a bigger YouTuber who lives in Chicago. Because he had been doing a bunch of Turbo graphics videos at that point in time when I got this, that when I released the video talking about this game, I reviewed it. I actually, if you want to check it out, I did a full review with footage on my channel way back at the very beginning. Go check it out if you want to see what this game looks like. And hear me talk some serious shit about a game. I tagged him when I posted the link to the video on Facebook, and he went and watched it, and he was just like, a new Turbo game? How do I not know about this? I'm going to go watch your video right now. And he came back, he's like, yeah, I don't think I need that one. So yeah, this is absolute dog shit. But I didn't pay for it, and that's the reason why it's still in my collection. I did pay for this, though. This was the big purchase that I got when I did my little 2017, got my tax return, got to get all the Turbo things. This was my huge purchase. I needed it in my life so bad. I also bought the other game in this series, but I had to send it back because it was bad. But we're talking Lords of Thunder on the Turbo CD. Absolutely love this. It's a side-scrolling, horizontally scrolling shmup where you play as like a guy in a suit of armor and you get all these crazy weapons. The music is metal as fuck, and it is super fun. I absolutely love it. This has a port to the Sega CD also. There's also a game in the series called Gate of Thunder, and I had bought that at the same time I bought this, but I had to send that back because it got like the case had gotten broken in shipping or whatever, and it like scratched the CD. So I couldn't play it, and I was like, I'm not, and it didn't have the back art also. So I was like, this is not how it was advertised. Like, not having the back art was not advertised in your listing on eBay. And number 2, the game is damaged. I want my money back. And the guy was like, okay, fine, send it back. And I did. But this is one of the best shmups I've ever played. You have to select your ship, or you have to select the stage that you go to. Sorry, you have to select the stage you want to go to, like in a Mega Man game. And it is awesome. So good. I love that one so much. And then I got this at the same time I got Lords of Thunder. This was the other big price one that I got. And I was really disappointed in it. I was like sad disappointed. Oh, no, I got this at People Play Games. Yes, I did. I got this at People Play Games. This was in their expensive case, and I bought it there. Because I remember I got this pretty early on. And that is Valis 2. I had Valis 3. I had Sid of Valis, Valis 3, and the original Valis on the Genesis back when I was originally collecting in the 2000s, early 2000s. And I had Super Valis 4 on the Super Nintendo. So I liked the franchise. I enjoyed it a lot. So when I learned that there were Valis games for this console on CD, I was like, yes, give it to me. Give it all to me. I cannot imagine what this game is going to be like on a CD. This game sucks. This is the unaltered version of Sid of Valis. Sid of Valis on the Genesis is like a super deformed version where like the main character has like a tiny little body and a huge head. They made it look like a little kid's game. This is the unaltered version. But man, this game controls like shit. The voice acting is kind of craptastic, just like I was talking about in Forbidden Zone or Final Zone 2. It has anime cutscenes, which are pretty rad. The music is great. The graphics look like crap, and it controls like crap. It is super choppy. Like your character does like basically like 2 animations when they walk, and when you attack, it's like beak, 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 and it's like hitboxes, timing the attacks are terrible. You have to be like right up on. You have to like dry humping the enemy before to hit them. It's terrible. I was so disappointed. Why don't they make games people want to play? So, as a fan of this franchise, I was like beyond disappointed in this. I was like, all the money that I spent to have it, I was like, yeah, I made a mistake. And then when I was at the Midwest Gaming Classic, the year that I bought, it was the same time I bought that Castlevania game on the PC Engine CD on Sunday. So that was on Saturday. That was one of the first things I bought at the convention on Saturday when they opened the doors. On Sunday, I was doing like my final lap around the con after our panel that year. And I went back to that table where I bought that Castlevania, and I was like, oh, this guy put out some new stuff for the Turbo CD and the TurboGrafx and all that. I guess I'll get that one. So I got Valis 3. Valis 3 is everything I wanted Valis 2 to be. It plays better. The graphics are better. The animations are better. The music is awesome. The voice acting is still poopy. But it is a much better Valis game on the TurboGrafx. This one was optimized to like nothing on the back. Like I'm going to show you some footage or something. Optimized way better for the console. So Valis 3, it was expensive as shit, but not as expensive as that Castlevania game, but I was glad that I got it. But the game that totally did me on the Turbo CD, the one that made me go like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever, is also the last game I'm going to talk about today. This is the last game I have for the console, and that is Ys Book 1 and 2. These are action RPGs that I've known about for years. I knew about Part 3 on the Super Nintendo. I did not realize that these were available on the TurboGrafx until I was just about to buy my Turbo Duo, and I saw Johnny Millennium, the Happy Console Gamer, do a video talking about the PC Engine and the TurboGrafx CD, and he talked about this game, and I was like, oh, that looks really fun. If I find it, I'll have to get a copy of it. And then sure enough, I get my Turbo Duo, I go to People Play Games for the first of those 3 weeks of rating their Turbo section, and they had it. And it was not super expensive, which was what shocked the hell out of me. I want to say this was like $60, and I was like, oh, yes. So I picked it up and I brought it home and I played this all damn night. The music is absolutely fantastic. Turns out it's done by Yuzo Koshiro, my favorite, or one of my favorite, if not my favorite video game music composer. I was going to say David Wise is up there too, but Yuzo kind of inches him out a little bit because he's just, everything I've heard from him is amazing. The gameplay is great. I love the way this game looks. The way you fight in this game, it's like set up like Legend of Zelda. It's like a top-down action RPG, but you run into the enemy to fight them, and it's kind of like when you're doing that, it's like dice is being rolled. You don't see it, but it's like depending, like I guess it's like taking your attack value and your enemy's defense value and their attack value and your defense value, and it's like being rolled like dice to find out if you hit and how much damage you do and if they hit you back, kind of thing. It is so good. It is so fun. I had so much fun playing this, and I was like, I need all the Sega, or not Sega CD, all the TurboGrafx CD games I can find, which is why I ended up buying Addams Family, which I shouldn't have. But absolutely love this game. It's one of my all-time favorite games on this console. Had to have it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the last game I have to talk about. I thought this was going to be a short stream because I'm talking about one console's worth of games that all fit on one shelf right here on my unit. That's why it's empty right now. That's where they all are. And it took me 2 hours to talk about it. Whatevs. So that is it for this stream for tonight. They probably didn't have good progress to make. Yeah, Valis 2 was very disappointing. I guess they got different people to work on 3 because 3 is way better. But yeah, thank you for coming tonight and hanging out with me and talking video games while I talk about video games. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you find the content on my channel for the new subs to your liking. I try to make more, but my computer does not really like me editing videos that much anymore. So that's why I've kind of reverted to making streams like this, which I love doing. Don't get me wrong. Having the ability to talk to people as you're essentially making a video is awesome. But I've also started making shorts on my phone. New one coming out tomorrow. It's going to be a slightly different style. I've been doing like 3 games you need to own for a console. I saw a lot of those in the pipeline. I have one already that I've made, but tomorrow's going to be a review. So check that out. Coming tomorrow, possibly tomorrow afternoon. All right, have a good night, VGM. Thank you for coming. Thank you, everybody, for coming and hanging and chatting with me tonight. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I will be back next Thursday at probably, I'm thinking 8:30 is going to be the safe time now because they're doing construction on the highway, and now it takes me twice the amount of time to get home, so I had to delay it until 8:30 today instead of 8. That's probably where it's going to sit for a while until the construction's finished on the highway. So next Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Central, the next stream, it will probably be either the Game Boy or the Genesis. And if I do the Genesis, it's going to have to be broken up into parts again. But keep an eye out for that. I'll have reminders on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram for that as well. And then, like I said, tomorrow we got a new short coming out. I hope you enjoy that. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'll definitely check you out, VGM. I'm going to check it out once I sign off. Have a good evening, everybody. Stay safe. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. Chris, the old-ass retro gamer, out. Good night. Bitch.